In 1960, when Burkina Faso won its independence, its new leaders made a promise. The country's wealth will finally stay inside the country. Then a 30-something-year-old soldier who had never won a single election, running a country that's broke and fighting a war on multiple fronts, did what 6 decades of elected governments couldn't manage. Not through a vote, not through a treaty, but through a run of decisions most African leaders still won't make, including the ones sitting in peaceful, wealthy countries with none of Burkina Faso's problems. So I gathered 7 of those decisions ranked from smart to essential. So we are going to be cracking them right now, and I would advise you stick to the end because the last one is actually the real reason why most leaders who copy the easy part of this still end up failing anyway. So his first decision was to look poor and build trust. Yeah, let's start with the cheapest move on the list. Traoré takes home about $3,000 a year. Just compare that to Kenya's president, who's officially paid about $192,000 a year, or South Africa's president at over $220,000. That literally means Traoré earns less in a year than some of them earn in a single week. Now take note that he sleeps in a barracks. Ministers took a 30% pay cut and civil servants got a 50% raise. And that's not all. Even the courts changed. Barristers used to wear British-style wigs and gowns, which was a leftover from colonial rule. And that's gone too and has been replaced by the Burkinabè traditional dress. We quite agree that none of that builds a factory, but it builds something that factories can't. Trust. Just ask people to sacrifice when you haven't sacrificed first. Nobody will believe a word you say, no matter how good the plan sounds on paper. So by that, we can conclude that he leads by example and obviously build trust. That leads us to the next on our list, which is to stop giving away the good part. Yeah, here's the piece that actually builds everything else on this list. Burkina Faso now holds 94 tons of gold under state control, worth around $6 billion, and at least 5 mines have been nationalized. And a new mining law forces every project to hand the state a minimum 30% stake, which is a smart move. It's not just gold either. A second cotton processing plant has been established. Sofitex, one of the country's biggest cotton companies, got nationalized too. And that's not all. We've got a national dairy factory, a tomato processing plant. So we can see that the pattern repeats itself, resource after resource. Industry after industry on purpose. Just picture a growing cotton, shipping it out raw while someone else turns it into a shirt and sells it back to you at 10 times the price. That's the business Burkina Faso just walked out of piece by piece on almost every product it makes. Now, number 3 is to pay yourself before you borrow. Look at it this way, $64 billion. That's the size of Burkina Faso's new development plan. 2/3 of it funded at home, not borrowed from anyone. Now, let's look at what happens when a country skips this step. Let's take the case of Zambia that defaulted in 2020. Debt passed 100% of GDP, and it took 4 years just to negotiate what it owed, and it's still climbing out. Ghana also defaulted on $30 billion in 2022. So spent years clawing her way back to something stable. What a lot of people don't understand is the fact that debt doesn't just cost money, it also costs control. When you owe too much, every decision in your country starts running through what your lender will allow, not what your people actually need. That's what Traoré has understood, and he made Burkina Faso build a new national bank as part of this push. And guess what? Building this new bank enabled Burkina Faso to clear close to $4.7 billion of local debt along the way. So the strategy is to build this first, almost second, if at all, and only on your own terms. That leads us to the first strategy on our list, which is to take your share carefully. Most African countries still hand out mining rights for a stake of around 10%. Ghana's mining law fixes it at exactly that, 10%, and hasn't moved in years. Burkina Faso's new code triples it. And Mali pushes its own stake even higher to 35%. And by doing that, it pulled in over $1 billion in a single quarter. Now, if we look at Niger, they even went as far as seizing back a uranium mine that used to belong to a French company. And after that, that company's exports got blocked when a neighboring country shut down its route to the sea. And last but not the least, Burkina Faso itself requisitioned 200 kilograms of gold from a foreign mining company back in 2023, calling it a public necessity. If you're still with me at this point, the pattern should already be bothering you. And that's good, for that means you are paying attention. But here's the warning nobody puts in the highlight reel. Mali's move against Barrick Gold triggered an international lawsuit, and the Resolute Mining Company paid $160 million just to get its own executives released. So like I said earlier on, taking your share is smart, gets expensive fast, and it scares off the next investor too. Now, number 3 is to be wise enough to feed your own people first. In 2025, Burkina Faso witnessed for the first time in its country's history food self-sufficiency. And it did that in the middle of a war. We saw cases where over 400 tractors reached farmers who've never had one. 700 motor pumps, fertilizers, fish feed, vegetable seeds, all reaching producers who used to go without any of it. The plan behind all this is to actually see poverty drop down from 42% to 35% by 2030, and a life expectancy increase from 61% to 68%. Now, it might interest you to know that across the continent, food imports added up to about $97 billion between 2021 to 2023 alone. That's nearly $100 billion leaving Africa every few years, just to buy food that could have grown at home. So that leads us to understand that food security isn't charity. It's currency protection, and it's even the cheapest insurance policy a government can buy. Now, number 2 will be not to just swap masters. What did Traoré do? He pushed out French troops and cooled things with the West, then walked straight towards Russia with military cooperation deals. We saw him attend a summit invitation from Putin and also talks of nuclear energy partnerships. And let's not forget China, that's in the mix too, building infrastructure like a cement plant with a 750,000 ton annual capacity. So here's a question worth sitting with. Is that freedom, or is just a new landlord with a different accent? I believe real independence isn't picking a different foreign partner, but it's being able to walk away from any of them anytime and still stand on your own 2 feet without the whole plan collapsing. And that takes us to our number 1, which is simply to build a system and not a shrine. Yeah, this is where most African leaders do fail. But here's the one that decides if any of this actually lasts. You will notice that every single thing on this list runs through one man. The refinery, the mining law, the whole plan. Now the question is, if Traoré is gone tomorrow, does any of it survive him? Thomas Sankara tried almost the same thing in this exact country in the 1980s. Low pay, anti-corruption symbolism, breaking from foreign donors. He was unalived in a coup. And unfortunately, most of what he built died with him in a few years. So I want us to understand that good policy tied to one man isn't a system. It's a countdown clock ticking, whether you notice it or not. That's why Ibrahim Traoré is a good example, because he is actually smart enough to write it into law, build it into courts, contracts, institutions that don't care who is sleeping in the barracks. That's the real difference between a moment Africa remembers and a model Africa can actually keep. So what we can actually take from this is not the coup, not the politics. Number 1, refine before you export. 2, fund yourself before you borrow. 3, take your share carefully. 4, feed your people first. And 5, diversity. Don't just switch masters. And finally, build all of it into something that survives without you standing there holding it up. So we've seen how one country broke a 100-year-old business model with a simple decree, while broke and at war. And countries with 10 times its budget haven't managed one item on the list. Tell me in the comments which one of these 7 is your own country still getting wrong. And don't forget to like and share the video with as many people as possible. For as I always say, the more we empower Africans, the greater Africa will be. That's it. Thanks for watching this video and hope to see you on my next one.